Why do I love a doomed love story? Hello fellow book nerds, this is Gabby and today I am coming out from a sunny, if you can see that, Miami. That sounded douchey, I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm in Miami for a holiday and I just finished The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo and I just had to chat to you about it because oh my god, right? Like, wow, okay, she did that. So let's talk about it. If you've never heard of Familiar, it's the newest book from Leigh Bardugo. Leigh Bardugo is the author of Grishaverse. She brought us bangers like the Shadow and Bone series, Ninth House, all of that. And I was really interested to check out her newest release because I'm a really big fan of the Ninth House. I love Ninth House. I love Hellbent, and like I need a conclusion to the series. But I thought that Shadow and Bone were just okay, and there were a lot of things that I didn't like, and it was mixed bag, let's call it. So I was really curious to see like what this book would be about. It's so different than what she wrote before, and it's a standalone. So there were expectations were not high, but like up in the air, I think. I was excited to check it out. I was excited to read it, but not sure what to think. What is the book about? Let's start with a little bit of a synopsis. So in The Familiar, we follow Louisa, who is a scallion. She is a poor servant working in a pretty poor household. It's set in during like Inquisition times in Spain. So I don't know what year that is, like 60s, 1700s? She's been working for this family a long time. Her mistress doesn't treat her well because she's pretty miserable. Her and her husband are pretty poor and have very low standing in society. And Louisa is hiding a bit of a secret because she has Jewish origins, but Jewish people are really heavily persecuted right now because Spanish Inquisition, we love the Christians, blah, 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 blah. All that pretty terrible stuff. And Louisa also has I don't know why I'm saying Louisa, I think it's Louisa. She also has another secret, and it's the fact that she can perform small miracles. She can make bread multiply, she can mend broken things like dresses and things like that. And she uses these abilities to help her in her everyday life and make her life a little bit less miserable, a little bit more bearable. But when her mistress catches on what she's doing, she decides to pull Louisa and make her perform in front of the town of Spain. And from that, it all escalates. The king gets involved. There is a magical trial. We meet the familiar. It all really kicks off from there. So, as per usual, there will be no spoilers, but if you really don't want to know anything about this book, then why are you watching a review? But there will be no spoilers, at least beyond like the first 20% what is in the synopsis. You can find all the timestamps down below to check out the sections you like, and let's get into it. So, writing. Honestly, I love Leigh Bardugo's writing, and I feel like it just improved so much from like what I remember reading Shadow and Bone, which was like, okay, serviceable writing. I have nothing bad to say. I don't think it's been a while, but I have nothing like particularly that good to say either. To now, I think it just sings. I really enjoyed how this book was written. It was beautiful, not overtly purple, but still had those like beautiful musings, and I feel like everyone's voice was very distinct. Even though it is written in third person, it just really portrayed Louisa's personality. I love getting the little vignettes of when we get a little bit of other people's perspective. Yeah, really love the writing. There were some quotes I felt like moved to save, and I really loved also the inclusion of Hebrew and different languages, because the language of magic is like a mishmash of different languages. I really loved that, and like how that played out and how it had influence. So I thought that bit was really well done. I really enjoyed it. World building. I will say this book did such a good job setting us in the in the setting of Spain, Inquisition. You can really feel the oppressive hands of the church, oppressive hands of the king in every aspect of these people's lives, and how religion, Christianity, a culture of purity really affected these people's lives, and how women, the kinds of choices they had to make for respectability, and how important decorum and those like surface level signifiers of respectability were. And I really enjoyed that. I feel like it just really situated us in a time period, and you understand Louisa's actions because you understand the context in which she's making them. I felt like I understood the kinds of choices that were available, the kinds of pressures that women had in this time. So I could really empathize with Louisa and all the other female characters, as well as male characters. And I really didn't know that much about the persecution of Jewish people, Muslim people, and like what that was during the Inquisition. Like I knew like very vaguely, but it's not something that I learned in school. So I think that was really well done. I think it was really cool to see how the author brought her own Jewish roots, and talked about like the experience of her ancestors and what it was like in this time period. And I feel like she really pulled out like her ancestry, and it's kind of like a love letter to it almost. At least I felt in some parts it was really celebrating the uniqueness and difference of different religions and cultures. And I really particularly loved how passionate some characters were about it, and just how important it was to their lives. So yeah, really well done on the world building. I felt transported to this time period and to the social norms and all that. That was so well explained, but so seamlessly too. So yeah, really great world building. There's also the magic aspect of it. It's not like a high magic system where everything's explained and everything makes total sense and you totally understand where the magic's coming from and what we need to do. It's not like that. It's definitely like a light magic system. But what I really loved about it was that culture and religion and experience like really shaped it and gave it power. And I like that it wasn't overly explained, because anything felt possible, and I really enjoyed that. And I think the author just did such a good job. Overall, the world building atmosphere, I felt transported. I felt like I knew what was happening. I felt like I understood the repercussions of things. So just really well done. Okay, plot. I did not know what I was getting myself into getting into this book, because I thought it was about vampires. So like, mistake number one. I was like waiting for the vampires to come out. I honestly thought this was a little bit like Dowry of Blood. I even kind of imagined like Life of Addie LaRue kind of vibe, where it spanned many years and centuries, and I don't know, I just imagined more of that kind of story, and like a vampire story. But we get this similar in the spirit, but different in like what happens. It's not actually about vampires. The familiar is not a vampire, but that aspect, there's still the aspect of a very long life and like the repercussions of it, which I really enjoyed, examining the impact of that on someone, and what it means to be mortal, what it means to have meaning in your life, and what life of servitude means. So I really enjoyed that. In the end, it did feel a little bit like Life of Addie LaRue in some sense, like the essence of it, which is a book I didn't like, but I feel like this just did it so much better. And actually, there was way more plot than vibes. I guess I expected like this to be like mostly vibes, if I'm being honest. Like slow musings of immortality over many centuries. I don't know why that's what I thought this book was. Like, I don't know what happened in my brain to make me feel like that was the plot, because it's not. It actually has way more action. There's this tournament aspect to it. It's a lot about politics, and you really need to understand how different people and their stations in life correspond to each other. And at its core, it's a story about someone wanting more out of life and willing to fight for it. And I really loved that aspect. I love that Louisa was not someone who would just lie down and take it, but she wanted to take charge of her own life. I feel like the book kind of positions it to think that it's like a story about ambition and maybe falters of it, but I actually saw it completely differently, and maybe that's what I was meant to get at the end. But I felt like it was showing that it's scary to take chances, but it will, in many cases, it will be worth it at the end. It was about greed of people. Honestly, I loved it. It felt like a doomed love story. I love star-crossed lovers, couples that just feel so real, but you feel like the obstacles are real, and you're like, how will they get out of this? And this feels doomed from the beginning. I love that. I eat that up. I'm not like a fan of Romeo and Juliet, but I do love that doomed aspect of them. And I think there's a reason why these stories really move us. So yeah, overall plot I really loved. I loved what kind of story this was. I loved the story that it told. It just felt so rich, and I was engaged through the whole time. Let's move on to characters, because I was just about to say I loved how engaging the characters were. That we have such a wide plethora of characters, and I feel like we're introduced to some of them in the beginning, and you're thinking, all right, well, this person's evil or this person's bad because of these reasons and these things they're doing. But I feel like the book gives a lot of grace and empathy to examine why they are the way they are. And I love seeing people who carve out their way in a society that's more oppressive, and they have to navigate in certain ways, but like in the end find happiness. I really love that. I love the character of Lucia. She feels just so real, like a real person who had a hard life and who had to work really, really hard on everything, and wants more for herself. So I loved her. I loved her ambition. I loved everything about her. San Angel, I really love the portrayal of him as well. It's a very enigmatic character in the beginning. We don't know what he's about. We don't know his motivations, what his role in the story will be. And I just loved how that grew and how he came to life through the whole story. And the place we meet him and the place at the end is just so different. I really love that. I really found the character of Valentina and Mauricio, was it? Fascinating. Or Marius, whatever Valentina's husband was called, super interesting. So, was kind of not expecting where this went. It was really, really great. We have some like big political players. I think some of these are inspired by real historical people who lived in that period of time, because the author's note mentioned like playing around with some of the timelines of these people, like Victor Perez. And I think May character might have been inspired by someone, I have no clue. Yeah, I really loved how that was executed. So I think the characters were so strong and their relationships to each other, and I feel like everyone that had a role to play was very well developed, really interesting, and I found them just such a good addition to the book. It wasn't just about the main character, it was like everyone's story in a way, and I feel like they did a good job like weaving all these threads together. So yeah, it was done really, really well. Now, themes. Yeah, I kind of talked about this, I think, in the plot, but I just love how everything was executed. I love learning more about the Spanish Inquisition and what the life was like to people there. And I feel like it gets really brutal in some times. And it definitely, the book's themes center around freedom and taking charge of your own destiny and not giving up and cultivating ambition, which I really loved. And I think all the themes were really well done. I don't know that much about the time period, like I mentioned, or like Jewish people during that time period and things like that. I feel like I learned a lot, but I'm not like a expert in that area, so I would be curious to hear from other people who do know things about it, what they thought. But honestly, I just found, like, dare I say, I think this will be my favorite. Well, for now, it's on the list of my favorite books of the year, because I want to buy a physical copy. I'm so annoyed I didn't buy a physical copy in the first place, but the ebook. But I just found this so beautiful and so captivating, and the plot kept me engaged, but just the themes of it and the vibe of it is exactly what I love. It reminds me of 10,000 Doors of January, one of my all-time favorites. It just, that kind of slow book. Actually, also reminds me of Vampires of El Norte, which is my favorite book of last year. So like, I definitely have a type, and this fits the type. So I don't know if you've not got it from this rambling, but honestly, I really, really love the book. I haven't done my CAWPILE compilation yet, but it's a 5-star. I'm not giving it anything less than a 5-star. Let's say for characters, I honestly think it's like a 9 or 10. Atmosphere, 9, maybe 10. World building, 9 or 10, maybe even 10. Intrigue, 9. Logic, 9. Enjoyment, 10. So whatever that adds up to, it was a 5-star read. I really, really Loved it. I would 100% recommend it. I feel like Leigh Bardugo went from an offer that I thought maybe was slightly overrated to an offer that is up there with my favorites, because I love Ninth House, Hellbent, and now I love The Familiar, and I am super excited to see what else she writes and what stories she takes, and I think she should stay in adult books because this was definitely an adult, and I think she should stay here and keep pushing and keep telling stories that speak to her. And yeah, more books like this I would absolutely love. So yeah, The Familiar, 5 out of 5 for me. I'm gonna be buying a physical copy as soon as I'm in the UK, because I actually like the US cover slightly less and it was more expensive, so I was like, I'm not doing that. But once I'm in the UK, I'm definitely buying a physical copy. Absolutely loved it, would 100% recommend. But let me know, have you read it? What did you think about it? Like, are you excited to read it? Do you like Leigh Bardugo? Do you like her other books? I'd be super interested to hear. I hope the audio in this one was good. It's always weird to be filming not in your own house where you don't know what's happening. The sunshine's like definitely shining. I'm sun-kissed. But yeah, I had so much fun chatting to you about it. I feel like really this video is like on the shorter side, although I'm like, well, this is my favorite book I've read so far this year, with big claims, big claims. Although there were some quite good books I read already. Well, maybe like 3 of them. It's definitely in the top 3. I don't remember all of them. But it was a really, really great read. I really hope you love it if you do pick it up. Let me know, did I make you want to read it? What did you think if you have read it? Did you enjoy the video? If you did, if you could comment, like, and subscribe, I really, really appreciate it. It really helps me out. But that's it from me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!